Hi, sixth grade writers. This is the final lesson for generating and collecting ideas for true stories. At least it's the final lesson for now, because there's always going to be more chances to think about ideas for true stories. But today, I want to give you a final moment before plunging ahead in the writing process to really practice what you've learned and maybe even try another strategy or two today. So let's just start by reminding ourselves of what we know and then consider another strategy or two that could work for you today before you finally choose that moment that you know could make a really strong and powerful true story. Let's just walk through a few of these. These are some that I've mentioned so far this year, or maybe you've heard in prior years. Small moment stories start by thinking of people, places, things, objects that matter to you. Maybe you think about turning points in your life. For instance, the first times or the last times. Maybe the first time you went somewhere, did something, met someone, or the last time you went somewhere, did something, or saw someone. Maybe times you've had to say goodbye to something, or times you've had to let something go. A lot of us have tried writing about the last day before everything shut down with COVID-19. Maybe the last day you were at school, the last time you saw your friends, the last day you lived the way that you remember living to be. If you haven't tried that story yet, that might be an interesting thing to try out today. If that's for you, jot it down. We'll come back to that after this. Maybe times you realize something, learn a valuable lesson, watch something happen. Maybe you think about moments of injustice or justice. Maybe you've watched something that was unfair become fair, or someone speak up for someone else, or you spoke up for someone or spoke out against something to make something better. Or maybe you witnessed something be unfair or something was unfair to you. Maybe you talk about a time where you joined in with a protest, or maybe you saw someone bully someone else and you either stood there and kind of acted as a bystander, or maybe you stood there, took it all in, and then said something or did something about it. Social issues, for instance, can make for really powerful stories or beginnings of stories. Moments when life was just fill in the blank. Maybe you think about these ideas, but you really try to focus in on a specific feeling. Maybe it's a good feeling, a positive feeling, a negative feeling, or just something you feel often. I might say, I often feel optimistic when, or I often feel anxious if. You could talk about examples of emotions I either get excited about or emotions that are great and I welcome, or emotions that I have a hard time with, like maybe anxiety or stress or social pressure. All of these are fair game for today. Maybe you've already tried some, but you feel like you still have left some stuff out there on the page. Today's your chance. So just take a second right now to maybe make a mental note. Maybe write it down on a post-it. Is there anything here that you haven't tried that you might be interested in trying today? If so, jot it down. Make a note. Okay, without further ado, I'll give you your final tip. So, as you know, we're trying to come up with stories that are true, narrative stories. To do that, we need to think of many moments in our lives that matter. Strategies. We want to try out a few by writing blurbs or even starting the stories or posting the stories. Then we choose one out. So here's my final tip or strategy. We talked a bit about writing from emotion, writing about trouble. Here's something that might be kind of interesting. Writers also sometimes consider the good, the bad, the ugly moments of life when writing or trying to come up with ideas to write for writing true stories. So let me show you exactly what I mean. Maybe it's their deepest, darkest secrets. maybe it's those cringe-worthy moments, moments that make you go, "Ooh, I can't believe I did that," or "Oh, I can't believe I said that," or I can't believe I watched that happen." Here are a couple sentences that often help me get my brain kind of churning with ideas. The moment in my life that haunts me is when something I'm ashamed of is the moment I most regret is something that not many or nobody knows about me is, or maybe you kind of make it like a diary entry. Like when I was in sixth grade, I had a diary. I write my deepest, darkest secrets in. And sometimes my entries would start kind of like this. I can't believe I'm about to tell you this, but one time, or today at school. So here are just a few ways to get started. And I'm going to right now show you how I do this by thinking of a few possibilities, trying them out in my notebook, whether it be digital or physical, and then picking one to go with. Okay, I'm going to open up my notebook and give this a shot. Here it is. Okay, what will my cringe-worthy moments be? My deepest, darkest secrets. Maybe I'll make a list of deepest, darkest secrets. I think for me, it's kind of like cringe-worthy moments because I kind of have like a combination of things that are just outright embarrassing and also shameful in my life. So let me just think of a couple. I'm just gonna make a list in my head and say it out loud, maybe on my fingers. You could do the same as you're thinking alongside me or watching this. Okay, oh, there was that one time, first day of high school. My first day of high school, so I'm like a freshman. I went to the wrong class. Not just any class, a class of seniors. It was the entire football team, including my best friend's brother, who I had a major crush on. He was by far the cutest boy in school. I'm gonna keep going with this and see where I can take it if it could be a story. So I was in class and I like looked around and I was really flustered and door shut behind me and I didn't know what to do. And I saw my friend's brother, Alex, and just sat down. And I realized, and I think everyone around me realized I was in the wrong class. My heart was just beating out of my chest and he was like, "Hey, Anna, what are you doing here?" So not only, and at first I was like, "Oh, he's talking to me," but then it was like, "Oh, he's talking to me," and he realizes how embarrassing freshman moment this is. And this was like the first day of my freshman year of high school. It was awful. There was also the time, again, I think when I was a freshman, where I tripped. I tripped into the school building and I was already running late. My mom, I remember, had to like drop me off and was late to work on her end. I was late. My whole math class was watching. And I tripped on the ice and ripped my pants in front of everyone. And I had to go the whole day with ripped pants. It was terrible. Thankfully, one of my friends had a sweatshirt to cover it up. Speaking of pants, one time I peed my pants during a soccer game. Let me try one of these thought prompts out. And And something that nobody knows about that is that I played the entire game with pee in my pants. So you probably get the gist. The important thing that you're noticing is that I'm really trying out ideas. I have a list of ideas. I like to call these story blurbs. And these are great because rather than writing a whole story from start to finish every time I sit down, I'm just writing like a blurb. And maybe I finish the blurb out loud or to a partner or to the air or to my neighbors. Whatever I do, I don't have to commit to it yet. Instead, I'm kind of doing this thing that I like to call speed dating. Maybe you've heard of that. Speed dating, trying out a few different people, trying out a few different ideas, seeing what one fits, what one's fun, what one you want to stick with. And then before you get too deep into it, like writing a whole page or two, you just written a page or half a page, a few sentences, and then you can move on. Like, for instance, when I was writing the second one, I realized there's not really much of a story there. It's just embarrassing. I might kind of like cross it out and be like, there's not really much to say about it there other than just I tripped and ripped my pants and that was a bad day. This one, however, I feel like was just so mortifying because it was like all of a sudden, like I was finally there with my crush, and then this just ruined everything, and I had to like live with that. And it's like not the kind of person you don't see again. Like it was my best friend's older brother, so I saw him all the time. Or maybe the peeing my pants thing, and there's more to that story. Like people realizing on the bus that I peed my pants, and like why I thought that was a good idea. There's a lot to unpack there. So this could be a potential story idea. So what right now, maybe you've already started this or maybe you haven't yet, what I want you to do is I want you to try a few blurbs using one of the strategies that you've learned. Maybe you use the one that I just tried, which is super fun. Maybe you tried the good, the bad, and the ugly. Maybe you do one from earlier this unit or in another year or from another year. Whatever you do, I want you to make sure that you think of moments in your life, try out a few, really speed date, like try them out before you commit. And then finally, at the end of today, so like in 25 minutes from now, you choose one that you're going to take all the way through the writing process. Maybe today you're ready to get started on that. And yes, go for it. But the most important thing is that tomorrow you come in with a moment or a blurb, at least a couple paragraphs, so that you have something to start with. So let me recap that. Today, you're remembering what you know about writing true stories. Thinking about moments in your life. You're trying out a few using any strategy or strategies that you want, be multiple. You speed date your ideas. You have lists. You have blurbs. Then you end today by choosing one to write long about. And if you're waiting for me, if you have extra time, you start writing that story right now. All right, my friends, I can't wait to see what you do. Best of luck, and it's going to be great. Just remember to use all you know about how true stories tend to go.